Okay, cool. Hey, good evening. Thanks everyone for joining today's session with Ajinkya. I'll give a brief intro about him. He's a Telos validator. Have been in the blockchain space from 2016. Lot of insights, lot of work that I have done in the blockchain space. Just before that, my name is Kiran. I am the CEO and founder of Web3Learn.io. Web3 Learn is a blockchain skilling platform where we help developers learn blockchain programming, build projects, and at the same time help them connect with the industry. So three things: build, ship, and eventually placing the candidates. So today is going to be a very exciting session because we wanted to unravel a lot of topics around what a node in a blockchain is all about, how to become a node validator in the blockchain space, and above all, what has been Ajinkya's journey in terms of how he has become a node validator, like how much time did he spend in the community even before becoming a node validator? What does his day-to-day responsibilities look like? How does he make money? And we will demystify the facts about how to build a career, as a node validator in the blockchain space. So, without further ado, let me open the floor to Ajinkya. Just to give a brief intro about himself, and we'll deep dive into the session. Ajinkya, over to you. So, just brief intro about you, what you have been doing. How did the Web3 bug caught you in the first place, and when did you start hosting it? What has been your entry point into Web3 or blockchain or crypto, whatever?
Sure. So basically, as you mentioned, I've been in the blockchain space for the past, like, I think 5 or 6 years now, since 2016. If you want to know the exact date, you just have to Google when demonetization was introduced in India, and that day is the day, like that basic very night, I started, searching about alternatives of money. Basically, I mean, I was not even interested in what blockchain is or how stuff works on a tech side. It was purely on a money side or economic side, as to how people make money and how money is distributed among people. So when demonetization was introduced, I got inquisitive as to, I mean, it was shocking to know that a single authority, or a small group of people have the authority over the lives of so many people, and decisions are made without their without them being able to vote for it. So I mean, even though we are a democracy, it's not enough that we're a democracy. We need to be a proper decentralized democracy where everybody has a say in, if not the macroeconomics, but at least in the microeconomics of things, as to how things should work and how things shouldn't. So that's what got me started. And in 2016, there was like I think Bitcoin was at a certain price of around less $800 to $900, and I mean, I had no clue it would go to where it went right now. So of course, I would have gotten a bunch, but I did not. But of course, like the idea of Bitcoin running on a blockchain, and how blockchains work or how they interact with the real world, stuff like that, that got me really inquisitive. And then I was introduced to a blockchain called Steel, which allows people to blog. You write or you make content and you get paid for it. It's not as easy as just making a content, sending an email to, say, your boss or to somebody in a central authority, and you getting paid for it. So there is this governance factor involved. So you make a blog, people vote for it, whether they like it or not, and based on that, you get paid. So that's how I started getting curious as to, wow, I mean, blockchain is not only about investing money, it's also, you can earn money without really investing anything in this. You just have to find creative ways or smarter ways to do it. And of course, definitely blockchain is not the greater fool theory, as a few people say. It's not like somebody has to put in money for somebody else to get out. It's I think it's purely based on utility and value, and that's what attracted me to actually try to make a living out of the entire blockchain space. But honestly, I could not do that till I think 2021 or 2020. Yeah. So for 4 years, it was not exactly a struggle as such, because I never really tried doing anything, for an income. It was just exploring different networks, different blockchains, how things work, how one blockchain is trying to solve somebody else's issues. I mean, we're not living in a utopian blockchain scenario. Like, nothing is perfect right now. I mean, even with the network that I work with, Telos, I'm not saying it is 100% perfect. But like, we need a better community. We need more people to build dApps on us. On top of a chain. So similarly, every network has a few positives and a few negatives, and I think that's what got me really curious as to figuring out different ways of how to make a career in this space, actually.
Awesome, awesome. I think you raised a couple of very interesting points there, right? So one is from the point of decentralization. Everyone should people the participants or the stakeholders should have an authority in the decision making process. It might not be the greater amount of the decision making process, but they need to have a say. And from there, you mentioned about like how blockchain as a technology is solving some of that, right? Bringing more of decentralization and power back to the users, which is what Web3 is all about. And interestingly, you are associating the utility and the value to that as well, so that people, it's not only the decision-making capacity or the decentralization, but at the same time, people can also make a living out of it, which is more interesting and fascinating. Of course, there are numerous avenues, and I think we will deep dive today about the Node Validator as a career, as we mentioned at the start. So on that note, let me deep dive. Let me take a step back, or take a different path to understand a little bit. If you can tell us, our audience, about what does a node in blockchain mean, and how does how does a node work in blockchain space per se, and then we would like to connect that to what is the role of a node validator in a particular blockchain. So we will start at a generic node, and then maybe we can deep dive into a couple of protocols on how the different nodes work, and we will talk a little bit on the proof of work and proof of stake. But just to start at a higher level, how does a blockchain run, and what does a node in blockchain mean at the
moment? So I mean, a blockchain is a very easy concept if you can visualize. Every blockchain is essentially a record of transactions or data stored in a decentralized way. To put it in simple terms, if you're using an application, a mobile application, that application hosts all its data on a specific centralized server, and this doesn't generally happen, but if it does, I mean, your data is at a security threat because it's stored at one place. So basically, the operator of the data center has the authority over your data. Okay, so this is centralization. In decentralization, what happens is data is stored in different nodes, and those are all connected in a peer-to-peer way, and data is it flows from one node to the other as blocks are produced or mined, depending on what proof of stake, proof of work it is on. So in the easiest of words, it's like, you have 10 different books, and 10 different books have the same data. So it is impossible to, change data on any one specific book and say, nahi, yahi sahi hai, or this is the right data. No, until and unless you don't change the data on all the 10 books that are there simultaneously at the same point, till that time you can't say that that data isn't right or isn't wrong. Okay, so it has to happen instantly, and by the time you're doing that, an 11th book is made or the 11th node is there. So that is why it is so hard to breach a blockchain, because everything has to happen instantly. So that's about what a node, or basically what blockchain is in basic terms, you can say the nodes are those books which store that data. And as the data goes on increasing, the size of the node, it goes on, the data collected in it goes on increasing. So it's essentially how the pages in a book work. Pages are being added to the book. In a similar way, blocks get added to the node or the network. So that's what nodes are. And what a node validator basically does is, the primary aim or the primary goal for a node validator is to set up the node, to run the node, and to make sure the infrastructure being provided for the security of the node is of high quality, or is of high class. It doesn't make sense for a node to run on your on your computer or your mobile phone, because your mobile phone can be stolen, or anything can happen. So of course, when your point of entry to that node can be through your laptop, but you can't run your node on your laptop. You need to have dedicated servers which have some basic X amount of RAM, X amount of graphics cards, stuff like that, for it to run. So that's all about being a node validator in basic terms.
Awesome, awesome. I think this is the most simplest analogy that I got so far, and in understanding the node, trust me. The book analogy there, that you cannot change all the 10 books of the same content, and the content keeps increasing. You cannot erase the content in those books. And if you want to erase the content, like, you need to do it simultaneously at the same time, whereas other nodes are getting generated, which is, super, super difficult, That's the beauty of the blockchain, super awesome there. And on the note, I think, can I say that node validator is sort of a heart veins or artery of a blockchain?
Not a node validator, the nodes are actually, or not even the nodes. The data flowing through the different nodes, those can be called as the veins and the arteries. Node validators can be called the organs, they have to function for the data to flow. So the organs have to function for the blood to flow, something like that, you can say.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. So from that, let's move to understanding a little bit the basic difference between what a proof of work and proof of stake is. The reason why we wanted to touch base this is, there has been so much of talk about Ethereum moving to the proof of stake somewhere around September, October timeframe. They're doing a lot of tests, and the Robson test is quite successful at this point of time with PoS. So what is the main difference between the proof of work and proof of stake, and where does the node validator comes into picture? Is it in the proof of stake network or in the proof of work? If in the case of proof of work, who comes into picture, right? Is it a mining guy or whatever? Who are primarily trying to understand who are the stakeholders in each vertical.
Mm-hmm. So basically, what happens is, when the first Genesis block was mined of Bitcoin, what had happened was the computational power to produce the block, or to generate the block, was so less, you could do it on your laptop, or even the laptop is a very advanced device as of now. Those you could do in, I think, i3s, i5s, basic computers. So as the mathematical computational, what you can say, the right word would be the difficulty. As the difficulty to produce the blocks or to mine the blocks kept on increasing, the miners, they had to purchase or upgrade their hardware. So what proof of work is? In proof of work, basically you have to do work in terms of solving complex mathematical problems or solutions, and you have to mine the blocks. So that is proof of work. And in proof of work, or all chains that are proof of work, the coins aren't mined earlier. Basically, we do say there are only 21 million Bitcoins, but 21 million Bitcoins haven't been mined. I think it's around 19 million right now. And the remaining 2 million will go on to, I think, the year 2140 or so. So those 2 million are yet to be mined. Whereas in proof of stake, you're not mining the coins because the coins are already mined. You're just validating or you're just producing blocks and you're just accessing those coins. So that is basically the major difference between proof of work and proof of stake. In proof of stake, you have miners because, as I said, you have to solve complex mathematical problems to receive BTC in terms of rewards. Whereas in proof of stake, you don't have to solve anything. So the energy consumption compared to proof of work is lesser. The hardware that you need compared to proof of work is lesser, and also the what you can say. I mean, of course, I mean the hardware and the energy. These two are the most important aspects why Ethereum wants to move from proof of work to proof of stake. So this is the major difference between what a proof of work is and a proof of stake is. Now there's a third type of you can say consensus mechanism that comes into the picture. That's called dPos, delegated proof of stake. So in proof of stake, you have to purchase set number of coins. The coins are decided by the network that, okay, you have to purchase 100 tokens or 100 coins of this blockchain, and you have to stake them. And once you stake those coins, then you start becoming a node validator, or then you purchase hardware, or you purchase or you rent hardware, or you go to Amazon. AWS gives you servers on rent, cloud servers. You can be a validator through all of those. Whereas in dPos, it's called delegated proof of stake, where you don't have to purchase any tokens from the market. The governance or the consensus mechanism in dPos is you have to basically set up your node on a server, and you have to connect it to the network, and the community decides whether you get paid or not. So it is delegated proof of stake because the community delegates their tokens to you in terms of votes. So this is the major difference between proof of work, proof of stake, and delegated proof of stake. I think right now only Bitcoin is happily a proof of work network. I mean, I don't hear Bitcoin maxis or just Bitcoin believers. I mean, maxis is the wrong word, but Bitcoin believers say that we want to move to POS or dPos. Whereas, I mean, it's pretty clear that majority of the Ethereum community wants to move from POW to POS. It's going to solve a lot of problems for Ethereum, but it's not an easy task. It's a difficult task to achieve, if you ask.
Correct. Awesome. Very, very interesting differences there. You mentioned a very interesting point that in the proof of stake consensus mechanism, if someone wants to become a node validator, they have to purchase certain number of tokens. I think in case of Ethereum, you have to purchase like 32 ETH in order to become a node validator there.
In terms of ETH, right?
Yeah. And then you mentioned a very interesting term, stake. So for someone who is attending and who doesn't know what staking is, can you explain what the term means?
So basically, when you put money into your bank account, you like in India, I think we have 3.5% interest on savings, and FDs give you around 6-7% depending on the bank. So staking is essentially putting money into a savings account or a fixed deposit. The difference being, when you're putting money into a bank, the bank can loan out that money. I mean, the way the banking system works, if 100 rupees are put into the bank, on no date are 100 rupees actually in the bank. That money has been given out to loans, and that's how banks make money. So if everybody were to cash out their money, the banking system would collapse. This is about banking. In terms of staking, networks provide a service called staking, which is similar to providing utility for the token. So if you talk about Ethereum, Ethereum is allowing users to stake 32 ETH and then become a node validator when it moves to POS, proof of stake. So now there are chains like, say, our network on Telos, you get 13.6% staking rewards to stake your tokens. So basically, you're putting your tokens into the network, you're locking it up for a fixed period of time, and the network is promising to give you that return for 1 year or for 3 years, depending on what you have staked. Now on Telos, the limit or the tokens minted are 355 million. Okay, so when we hit the 355 million mark, the staking stops, or you don't get any staking, because I mean tokens aren't created magically or out of thin air. There are some consensus mechanisms, or there are some consensus rules, some governance that the network and the community puts through or goes through, and that's how tokens are minted, and that's how the stakers get extra tokens. So if you put in 100 tokens, you're going to get 13 plus 100 at the end of 1 year. This is what staking in essence means. Now, don't confuse this staking to staking on, say, a protocol like Anchor protocol. Anchor protocol and what happened to Luna was a totally different story. Those are algorithmic stable coins, and Anchor was promising you 20% for eternity. You know, it's like they're printing money. You know, they're printing tokens. So that is something that is unsustainable. I mean, that is called staking, but then there's clearly a difference between the two.
No, you raised an important point, and that's going to be my next question, and then you covered it. So if I can summarize something like this, for a layman, staking is something like you taking your money, in general parlance, in a kind of the Web2 world. You take the money to the bank account and then you lock in, something like a fixed deposit. You put in your money for 4 months, 6 months, and the bank promises you that hey, they are going to give you 6% return or 8% return, on the top of the existing money, right? So you're going to get X plus 8.5% return on top of it, So
right.
So the reason why banks are doing that is, banks want liquidity, banks want more money, so their whole concept is CASA, right? Current account, savings account, and the loans, that they give. So similar to that in the Web3 world, in order to generate the liquidity, these protocols are coming up with the concept of staking, where the user brings in their tokens, will lock in with the particular protocol. So for that purpose, in order to reward the user, the protocol is giving a certain percent returns, which is the staking rewards. In some other protocols, it's called APY, etc., and all that, right? Okay, awesome. Okay. And yeah, that's a very interesting point. What if, since tokenomics is all about supply and demand, at the end of the day, right? So what happens if a certain protocol keeps pumping and pumping and pumping, because it will eventually lead to an inflationary, type of situation, which is again what is happening in the present world now, right? So Fed has printed, trillions of dollars, during the COVID time 2 years ago, and now we are seeing hyperinflation across the globe. Now, of course, Fed is controlling it, and they're trying to, draw down the liquidity again back, to control all the, pressures, etc., and all. So we'll touch only briefly about this. So what if a particular token is highly inflationary? And if someone wants, a user wants actually to stake on that particular chain, should they avoid it, or how should they play around that particular situation? If there is 20% returns, and at the same time, the chain is pumping in tokens forever, in an inflationary world.
See, so now, I mean, I'm not sure about how other chains would handle it, but I can talk about my chain. Our chain, what we do is, as I said, we have 355 million tokens, right? So once you reach that point, once 355 million tokens are distributed, it's either through staking or through Node Validator rewards and stuff like that. The community votes for whether they want inflation or not. Okay, this is governance. So if the community says they want inflation, they can even decide the number of inflation or the percent. So if the community votes for 1%, so the total tokens would increase 1% of 355 million every year, and that 1% increase would then be distributed to the node validators, to the stakers, and everybody who is earning from the network, right? So this is optional. If the community votes no, then this is not going to happen. The number of tokens in circulation will remain constant, and I think once that happens, like once the community says that they don't want any inflation, I think the sensible thing that would happen in terms of tokenomics is the price would start going up because there's lesser number of tokens being put into circulation, So, I mean, this is one of the reasons why networks have staking, because they want people to lock in their tokens for X amount of time. And once those tokens are locked into the network, those tokens aren't on the exchange. And if they are not on the exchange, they're not going to be sold off. So this is one way of making sure you have a stable price or a good increase or a healthy increase in price. This is not called a pump and dump. This is just called that you're giving extra utility, or you're incentivizing users or the community to hold the tokens for a longer period of time. So this is basically what staking is. And coming to your question of, what happens in terms of an inflationary coin, as you said, and there is staking 20%, for example. You've seen what happened to Luna recently, because I won't get into how Luna works and what caused the downfall and stuff like that. But if you see now, the total supply of Luna is multiple billions of coins, and the total market cap is still pretty much good. I mean, I think it's still in the top 100 or top 200. I'm not sure. I don't follow the coin, but it is still in a pretty good place. But the price has tanked because the total number of coins in circulation have increased drastically. So when the coin is inflationary, the network is going to keep printing on coins, and when that happens, the market cap will remain same. So, for example, if the market cap is $100 million are invested in the token, but the amount of tokens in circulation, they're just keeping on going, or they're just keeping on increasing. So that essentially means market cap remains same, and the price is going to go in a deep downfall or a deep dive.
Awesome, cool. I think we'll come to actually the crux, and how to build a career as a node validator. The best interest of the time. So just help us understand your journey exclusively becoming a Telos validator. How did you start your journey, and what does the day-to-day responsibilities look like, and how can one start looking into becoming a node validator?
Sure, fantastic. So I think my journey essentially started in 2019. In 2019, I became an ambassador for a social media application called Epix, which is similar to Instagram. I mean, you post your content on Instagram, and once you post your content, you get paid for the content, basically. So on those days, or at that point of time, Epix was on Steam and iOS, and they had decided to move to a new network. So I was inquisitive as to why they're not moving to Ethereum, or I mean, Solana wasn't existent in that time. I'm not sure if Cardano was or not, but Ethereum was a very good chain. I mean, it still is. But then why did this specific chain not want to go on Ethereum, and why did they want to go on Telos? Okay, so this is what got me interested, and I joined the community, the community for the blockchain, the Telegram group, basically. I joined there, and I started listening to people. I started listening, like, for the first 3 to 4 months, I think I was, you can say, a stalker. I was only reading people's questions, and I was seeing admins, or I was seeing the tech co-founders answer them as to what's happening. That's how I started learning about how Telos as a network works, or maybe even how blockchains work, and why it's so important to have a good or a fast TPS, or why you need lesser gas fees or even no gas fees for certain applications to actually run on top of it. I mean, imagine if you're playing a game, you're playing Call of Duty. You're playing Call of Duty on one of the EVMs, not even on Ethereum. Forget about Ethereum. You're playing it on EVM, and you have to, for every purchase or every kill, you have to pay gas fees. Even if it's 1 cent, why pay that? It doesn't make sense. Plus, you have to approve the transaction every time, since you're on the blockchain. So that is going to kill the entire gaming experience for you. So what layer one chains do are, or what we do is basically, we make the gas fees non-existent, or the user doesn't have to worry about the gas fee. Basically, it's taken care of by the network or by the game deploying. Okay, so all of this I started understanding when I joined the community. And I think 3 to 4 months down the line, I started helping people about their questions, because I was lurking in the community for so long, just reading questions, just reading answers, and going through a lot of things, that I became knowledgeable about certain stuff. So when I started helping community members, the network, basically, the network functions as a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. So the person heading the network at that time, the CEO is elected through elections every year. Okay. So that person came in touch, they got in touch with me, and they're saying we're planning to do a small uh, raise to get listed on exchanges. Since we did not do any ICO and stuff like that, we don't have any VCs as well. Okay, so we don't really have a lot of money. So we wanted to do a raise. So I was trusted as a you know uh, a, a key member of the funds that were being raised. I think at that time around north of $1 or $2 million were raised, and I was one of the people who was managing the funds. Okay, so I mean, this is what gave me that confidence that okay, I am in the community for a couple of months now, like not a couple, 6-7 months now, and the community members trust me, and the people heading the network or making critical decisions for the network, they trust me. So now the next logical step was to start contributing to the network, you know. So then I started asking questions as to how do I do it, and was the best way to do it. So it was the CEO herself. Her name is Suvi. She herself suggested to me that okay, why don't you be a node validator? And I was like, okay, I don't have any technical expertise to be a node validator. We were in a small group of around 8 people who was in charge of the funds. Okay, since we had to sign multi-sigs, we had to sign transactions, and everybody had to sign it, in a short time frame. So sometimes I was doing it like 3 o'clock in the night, 5 o'clock at night, Indian Standard Time, 5 a.m., 4 a.m. So then she was really happy to know that even if I wasn't getting paid for it, I was still waking up at night, or I was still staying up at night and doing something, because there were people who were not present there, or who were replying 24 hours later, and those were community funds, they were raised for the community, by the community, and we were trusted by the community to manage those funds well. And so if we had to, do some deal with some, I won't say an exchange, but if we had to do a deal with a third party, we had to be instant. So that's how the community started trusting me. And then I asked the CEO, okay, can you just list down the skills that you need to be a node validator? And she gave a good 5 to 8 sentence skill set. And I just remember one of that was a Linux system administrator. And I don't remember anything of that, very frankly, because I am not a technical guy. So then I got in, I went on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn, I posted, I just made a post that I am looking for a Linux sysadmin with so and so skill set. Experience 0 is fine, but you should learn, or you should have the willpower to learn something new. Okay, so I think after 2 months, I got one inquiry. I think she was a girl from Mumbai. I don't remember. Yeah, I think she was a girl from Maharashtra though. And I said that, okay, so and so is the work. And she said, I can be a Linux sysadmin, but I don't know what nodes are. I don't know what a validator is. In fact, I've never worked on any blockchain. I said, don't worry, I can, give you documentation which you can read and go through and learn because it's all there. Okay. And she was reluctant, like she wanted a stable job. And I understood that. I mean, that's fine. I think 3 or 4 candidates later, I came across a very nice person called Arjun Kumte. Um, so he got in touch with me and he said, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm willing to learn. And if you can guide me, I can do it. Simple. This was the first conversation we had. After that, we met in a cafe in my hometown, in my city. And at the cafe, I showed him what a blockchain is and how nodes are. I basically went on to show him the block explorer, the block explorer where transactions get recorded on chain and stuff like that. He was clueless as to what's happening because this is not how a financial system works. But he is a very good Linux sysadmin. Okay, so he was doing a job at some place and he wanted to do something part-time. I said, let's see let's work together. Like my first offer to him was, let's do this 50-50. You be a 50% part of it, I be a 50% part of it, and let's execute this. And he was like, I don't know. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing of blockchain or nodes or validators, frankly. So I'm not comfortable with, getting into a partnership with you, but I can do this on a freelance basis. I said, no worries, fine. I think I shared a few documentation with him, like on Google, if you search, how to be a node validator, and you put in the name of the network, like if you put in Ethereum, if you put in Cardano, I'm not sure if there is information for Cardano, but for Ethereum, you'll definitely find information. So that information, I just took it, I put it in a in a chronological order as to what you should read first, what you should read second, and stuff like that. And I just shared it with him. I think in 3 days time, he gave me a call and he said, I can do this. But I don't have hands-on experience of executing this. Like, you read a textbook and you understand this is how things are supposed to work, but you've never been through that event, so you don't really know how things are actually going to happen when you start doing. So he suggested to me, like, if you can get me in touch with existing node validators, let them just guide me and I'll do this. Richard Bryan is a very good friend or a node validator from UK, from London. So I got in touch with him. Similarly, I got in touch with 3 to 4 more node validators, and they didn't see me as competition. What they saw was somebody new wants to become a node validator. Let's help him out, or just let's guide him. So there was no cutthroat competition or stuff like that in this scenario. Actually, there is, very frankly, if you see the block explorer. But then their take was, somebody wants to learn something, let's help it. Those people, we scheduled calls at night at like 2-3 a.m. since that's when those guys are waking up and actually doing their work. So late night calls, and I was yawning at most of those calls, but I was still trying to absorb everything I could, because since I had to be a node validator, I needed to at least know how basic things work. And I think in 7 days time, my node was ready. Like, he had set up a node. So for our network, we have to be a node validator on the test net for 7 days. And then we had to launch another node on the main net. So those 2 nodes are different nodes. One has to run on the test net. After you've successfully produced blocks on the test net, then you get on the main net, and then you start producing the actual blocks of the real blockchain that is actually in there, basically. So this was an interesting journey. I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't even sure of whether I should purchase a domain name, whether I should, like, what name I should have for the node validator. So I think after 7 days, like after we were successfully producing blocks, only after that I started thinking of, you know, being a node validator in terms of having some income. Till that time, it was just exploring another facet of blockchain or how things work. That was my approach to this, basically.
Awesome. I think I could pick up like a lot of points here, Ajinkya. You know, so the first thing is, I think before even getting into the space or before asking for help, you know, you actually gave back to the community a lot more. You know, I think it requires a lot of commitment and perseverance. You know, to wake up at 4 o'clock and then start answering, sitting on the Discord and Telegram, you know, and start answering these questions, right? That actually shows, you know, lots and lots of commitment. You know, I think that's one of the reason might be these guys, you know, saw a true potential node validator who's very serious, who's willing to learn, and you know, they lent their efforts to you in becoming and guiding you, you know, a successful node validator there. You know, super interesting. So for someone, you know, since the topic was like how to build a career, you know, as a node validator. So as of today, in the present situation, I know we are in a bearish market at this point of time. But now, having said that, there are like a lot of protocols still coming up, right? You know, like we have a couple of L1s and L2s, you know, coming up. Of course, you know, there were like a lot of DeFi protocols that are shaping up. And I think there will be like a lot of build that is going to happen in the bear market, right? So for someone who wants to enter into the market as a node validator at this point of time, where should one look into? You know, which protocols they should look into? You know, there's nothing like a right and wrong answer. This is more around guidance around, okay, hey, might be these are some of the protocols that you should look after. You know, might be these are steps 1, 2, 3, 4 for you to explore to see if you're even interested in becoming a node validator, right? I see there are two aspects, you know, in this whole process. One is your passion and you know, to becoming a node validator and, you know, contributing back to the blockchain, you know, improving the blockchain as a technology, you know, overall at a 30,000 foot level. The other aspect is making money, making revenue out of it. Initially might be on a small piecemeal basis, and eventually on a sustainable basis, you know, which is the next part is making a career out of, you know, becoming a node validator. So, Martin, let's start with the first question. You know, so you know, for the audience here, like, how should they look into and what sort of protocols are offering opportunities at the moment? Like, where should one start their journey?
Very frankly, I mean, all blockchains that are either POS or dPos, you can be a node validator. It's pretty easy to make a career in the node validator space if it's a proof of stake chain, because then you purchase some amount of coins. You know, your initial investment is heavy, and based on that investment, you become a node validator, and then you get assured returns on top of it. Like, you get paid by the network for a long period of time, or at least till the network is running. Now, the catch here is, since you know, a lot of people can do this, or a lot of people can't do this because of the initial investment, these chains sometimes become centralized. For example, if I talk about a chain, I won't take a name here, but just say if it is an XYZ chain. If I talk about XYZ chain, and if you have to purchase 100,000, like a realistic number would be 20,000 USD, because that is like 20, 30, 40,000 USD is what is required to be a proof of stake validator. So if you say take 30,000 USD and you stake those coins worth of that much, what's happening is exchanges are coming into the picture. They're purchasing, or they're using community funds that are deposited on their exchange. They're using those tokens and becoming a validator. Like, I know a couple of networks that are allowing to do this. Not bowed my mouthing bad mouthing anybody here. But then what this does is, this doesn't allow retail people like you and me, we are like small people. We're trying to make a living out of this. It's difficult for us to purchase this much number of coins and then be a node validator. Okay. So it's this makes life difficult for us, but this is possible. This is not impossible. Like if somebody comes from a good business background and has some good amount of funds to invest, they can easily be a node validator through PoS. The other way is through dPos, delegated proof of stake. In this, you don't necessarily have to have a large investment. The investment here is going to be in terms of the servers that you rent. So now there are a couple of options. You can rent servers which are bare metal servers in India as well. Like there are companies who are doing it in Rajasthan, Delhi, Pune, Mumbai. Like they have set up data centers. They have a portal which is online. You connect to that portal. Like one such company is Everdata. My wildcard SSL certificate for the domain name is through Everdata. My first server was through Everdata. Like when I ran the test node server, I purchased it from, or I got it on rent from Everdata, I think for 6,000 rupees a month. And because I had to run it for 7 days, I got it for a month. And so basically there are companies who allow you to rent bare metal servers. If you're looking at in terms of investing and purchasing those bare metal servers, that's going to cost you anywhere around 2 to 3 lakh rupees. Okay, but then that is your upfront investment. Whereas if you rent it, it's going to cost you around 15 to 20,000 rupees for a very good server, and not only one, at least 2 to 3 servers. At the end of the day, if you take it in a yearly basis, the cost comes down to the same. But in terms of renting a server, if things don't work out, you can always get out of the rent. You can always stop paying rent. Whereas if you purchase the server, you have to purchase hardware. The cost that I told you was for one server. To run a node, you need at least 2 to 3 servers for P2P nodes, for API nodes, for a test net, stuff like that. So that investment goes up to 5-6 lakhs minimum. Plus you have electricity costs to bear. Your server has to run 24/7. If you stay in India, we have load shedding. So you have to purchase an inverter. So the cost goes on increasing. So basically, my suggestion would be, if you're just exploring the area of being a node validator, start off with a dPos chain. There are multiple, start off with a dPos chain, and once you start researching about how to be a node validator, make sure that you spend some time with the community first and what the community wants. Okay, like now this is from personal experience. What I do for the community is I try to provide them value. Now, different node validators provide value in different ways. One of the ways of providing value to the network is, building applications or launching projects on top of the net. So if you are into NFTs, and if you launch an NFT project which is super successful, even if you set up a node 1 week back, the community is going to vote for you because you've brought value to the net. Okay, so it's not like you have to do it my way. You don't really have to spend 5 to 6 months just interacting with the community. If you have talent, use that. You have to realize what you're good at, and you have to make the best use of that. Now, what I was good at was giving back value. I liked helping people. I liked helping, there were a lot of newcomers who wanted to know how to open a wallet, or how to, buy and sell, or how to, just how to make sure your tokens are secure, how to use a ledger, stuff like that. So I was helping people. That's how they trusted me. This was my way. You can launch a project and you can be a node validator. A pretty faster way to do it.
Cool. Super awesome. I have one more question, and we'll open the floor to questions. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. If not, after this question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask Ajinkya directly the question as well. So while you were speaking, Ajinkya, like I was trying to think a lot. Say suppose imagine I am setting up infrastructure. Whether it is renting or setting up my own infrastructure. So, for example, for a particular dPos or a POS, network there. How easy or difficult it is in terms of moving from one dPos to another dPos. So, for example, like I really like one network, and then I went on to become a node validator for that particular network, right? But at a certain point of time, I have realized, okay, this is not working out because of myriad of reasons, right? Market applications are not getting built on that. Might be I don't like the when I go deeper, might be I might not like the protocol or the product there or the network. So, but having said that, I might like another dPos network. Of course, the community angle, like becoming a node validator itself is a different journey altogether. Going through that community voting, delegating. Getting validated by the community, and then they assigning me as a node validator. That's a different process and steps altogether. Like varies with one network to another network. But from the infrastructure point of view, because I'm trying to understand, say, if my initial investment is 2 to 3 lakhs, can I move this same thing to another dPos network and then use it? Like I mean, it shouldn't be that I'm reinvesting again 2 to 3 lakhs to set up infrastructure for this particular other network.
Definitely. So, like, what I'd like to add to this is actually, okay, first I'll answer the question that you have is, yes, definitely. Like, if you have a server, basically most of the dPos networks or even POS networks, not only dPos, they don't mine, so you don't really need to have high resources to run the networks, right? So whatever you purchase for one or you've rented for one network, you can use it. You can't use that very server for multiple networks, but you can close down one network and you can start another network node on top of it. Because see, when you're running, say, 3 blockchains on top of one single server, the server has some capacity, so it's going to heat up. It's going to start missing blocks. Like I've missed blocks multiple number of times, and I've had to restart my servers, and I've had to, hold conference calls with my system admin, with Arjun, and try to figure out what the issue is. And we're only running one network, and we have 3 servers dedicated for one network. Okay, so but of course, like your question being, if I don't want to be running on, say, EOS, okay, EOS, and if I want to run on another dPos network called Ultra, you can switch off EOS and you can switch on Ultra. Not literally, but switch on, switch off is the way you can do it. But you can't run both simultaneously on the same server. That would affect your BP performance. So then you miss blocks, and then the network suffers outages and stuff like that happens. The second point that I'd like to add is, a lot of people have made a full-fledged career out of this by not only supporting one network, but by supporting multiple networks, even if they are direct competitors. Okay, so I have decided to provide value to only one network. This is my, you can say, strategy. A lot of people provide services to multiple networks. Like for example, there's this, you've heard of EOS.io. It is the underlying protocol on which multiple networks are built, like EOS, Wax, Proton, Telos, Ultra. Okay, so I've just named 5 networks here. So if you are good in being a node validator, like if you know your stuff, if you're skilled, you can be a block producer for these 5 chains at the same time, and there's nobody stopping you from doing it. In fact, some people like it because then you have a good amount of experience of different chains. This is another possibility as well.
Awesome.
So your income isn't limited to one network. Your income is spread up across.
you're kind of diversifying and building multiple sources of income, yeah, and at the same time, skills as well, right? Though they might look similar, but I'm sure there are a lot of differences which the node validators can do. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into the Q&A. Guys, feel free to unmute and ask questions. So I'll take 2 questions here. Vijanath asks, are there any Indian companies to rent? Which one is reliable or trustworthy? Vijanath, I presume this is with regards to the infra, right? Yeah.
So the question is, which companies to rent?
Which companies? Yeah.
As
Which
I said,
are,
of course, in India, there are a lot of companies who are doing this. There are a few in Pune also. There are a few private companies who are doing this. Like, they're not really recognized. For example, somebody who has a startup, he's rented out, say 10,000 square feet of office space, and he's put up servers there, and he's put that on rent. Like, I know somebody who is doing this from my city. One of my brother's friend is doing this. So, I could have taken it on rent from him, but I did not do that. The reason being, I wanted security, and I wanted to have an assurance that the servers won't go down. So I have chosen a different path, but there are a lot of Indian companies. There are a few well-known companies, like I said, Data, who is doing it as well. Like, Data charges around, their starting is around 5,000 to 6,000 rupees for the basic servers, and then it goes north of like whatever configuration you want. But then they are good as well. Like, they have prompt service and stuff like that. Like, my testnet was set on Data. I decided to go a different route again for a lot of different reasons, but there are Indian companies who are doing it.
Got it. And the second question is difference between PoS and dPos. Vijanath, we covered it. I'll share the recording. Feel free to go through the recording and get the answer. So the next question is, did you use Blokchain portal? A decentralized node setup portal.
No, not really. Again, I'm not a tech guy, but I was pretty much involved in the setting up process. Like, I was seeing what was happening. So we definitely did not use Blokchain portal. What I can tell you is, there is another company that is coming up. I hope I've got the name right. It's called Akash. And what Akash does is, they are doing decentralized cloud servers. So AWS, Amazon Web Services, they do centralized cloud services. Like, they offer services, but of course they're centralized, right? What the Akash network does is, I'll just confirm the name and I'll maybe share it later on. But what they do is, they are decentralized cloud services. So you can use those cloud servers and you can set up a node, so then you don't really have to have bare metal servers. So that reduces a lot of cost. Cloud servers are more reliable in terms of operability. I'm not saying in terms of security, but in regards to how much, in regards to the uptime, they hardly ever go down. So that is a good option, which I am considering moving on to, but it's still not tested in the market. So I'll definitely have to take a look at it for a while, and then I can decide. I think there's a question regarding that.
Yeah, I mean,
decentralized cloud service names. Oh.
Vijanath, I'll be in touch with you. Once Ajinkya, share the names. I'll share that with you guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Guys, now this is direct Q&A. Feel free to unmute and ask Ajinkya any questions if you have.
You can also DM me if you have any questions.
Yeah.
I think I know most of the people here. I think only a couple are new faces, so you can always just send me a message also. But of course, this is the best place to ask, so others can learn from your questions.
Exactly. Don't be shy.
Yeah, hello, Kiran.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi, Ajay.
Hi, Vajna.
Go ahead, Vaishnav.
Yeah, I just wanted to know the slashing mechanism in node operations, how the node slashing will happen.
I'm not sure nodes have slashing mechanisms. Like, can you give me a specific example where you've heard this or where you've read this? Are you talking about shardings?
Yeah, sharding itself.
Okay. So basically, what sharding is, you know, a network has some specific, maximum limit. And once you've occupied or once you've consumed that maximum limit, you're supposed to, like, you want the network to grow, or you want to continue giving the community or the users a service or the reliable service that you've always given. In that case, sharding comes into play. And I am not a technical person, so I'm not the right person to answer. But from what I understand, sharding means running multiple instances or side chains of the blockchain. Though you'll have to confirm this, and Google is the best way to do it, very frankly. But this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessary at this point, because I mean, sharding is a very fancy, term for node validators. Like, if you research Visa and MasterCard, they have, like, the transactions that they do, they're a max of, I think, 4,000 per second. They haven't really necessarily, gone above 4,000 or 4,500. And so there are networks that claim 10,000 or 50,000. So, you don't necessarily need so much at this point of time. I mean, our network, Telos, we claim we have 10,000 TPS. Is it needed right now? No, it's not. I mean, the financial products that run the economy right now of the world, I mean, not even of a nation, they're very happy at 4,000 and 5,000 TPS. So I don't understand why you need 50,000 or why you even need shardings at this point. In the future, when everything moves onto the blockchain, and when, a lot of transactions start happening on chain, and then everything needs to be validated on the chain, then maybe you will need sharding or side chains or ZK rollups and stuff like that. But as of now, I think it's unnecessary. My opinion, like, not any advice.
Yeah, completely understood, Ajinkya. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you.
Guys, any more questions? Benedict, you have a question?
Hi, Kiran. Sorry. Hi, Ajinkya. Sorry, I joined this session late. I was wondering if there will be a recording up so that I could catch up with what has been taught so far.
Yeah, there is a recording I'll share. Do you have any specific question?
No, that was it. Right. I have a lot of reading to do, right? Because I need to find out what this is really all about.
Yeah, well, this is worth of information. I'll share the recording. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks.
Guys, any more questions? We'll take one more and we'll wrap up. Dheeraj, Karan, Aditya. Okay, it seems like we don't have any more questions, Ajinkya. So first of all, thank you so much. And I think this is the most very interesting session that we had, so far on building a career as a node validator. And really wanted to thank you for the simplicity. As I mentioned, I think I myself personally got to understand what a node is and how to set up a node, like the difference between different networks, etc. and all. So thank you so much, Ajinkya, and for enlightening us. And as I said, this is super wealth of information that we were able to get. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for hosting this. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'll just drop in my Telegram handle if you want here, and you can reach out to me. This is my Telegram handle. Alternatively, you can contact me on Twitter at, I hope I get this right.
Yeah, but Vaijnath, I'll connect you I'll connect you and Ajinkya, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I'll
thanks a
do the
lot for
connection.
hosting me. And I think what you're doing is fantastic, because I mean, if I would have known what I know now, a year or 2 years back, I think my journey would have been a bit faster, is what I can say. Because it was a big learning curve for me. I had to do a lot of trial and error and self-learning and things like that. So I mean, since we have this session now, which we shared with people, and a lot more people will be able to access it, I think it's going to make life of a lot of upcoming node validators easier, I feel.
Absolutely, a lot more node validators and making blockchain, the alternative to the existing internet. And to your initial starting point of, right, making world a truly decentralized place. I think that's the need of the hour, and I think you guys are playing a very, very important role, in the whole journey in building that future of internet. So yeah, thanks once again. Keep doing the great work, and good luck in all your endeavors, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate
and
it.
thank you everybody who joined in.
Awesome.
Thanks for taking part.
Thanks everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.